Welcome to DopeBets.
We're going to win so much.
Please subscribe and like this video for more CFL and other sports betting picks. I know a lot of you miss the NFL and college football right now, but at least you can watch and bet on Canadian football in the meantime. I personally like betting on CFL football because it's always exciting with evenly matched competition. With that being said, we'll be going over this week's Canadian football games that are scheduled for this weekend, CFL Week 10. But first, let's get a quick recap of the previous week's CFL action from Week 9.
Here we go again.
CFL Week 9 started out with a blowout win for the Ottawa Red Blacks against the Calgary Stampeders. The game started out slow and was pretty boring initially, but eventually Ottawa got things going after putting up a few scores in the first half. The Red Blacks defense stepped it up today and was a key factor in the final score of 31-11. The game pretty much ended how we wanted it to, for Ottawa to win. I had actually put for them to cover the spread of 4.5, and they did just that.
Perfect.
For the second game of CFL Week 9, we had picked the Toronto Argonauts to win this game, but they never really had a chance. The Blue Bombers came out looking to redeem themselves after being dominated by the Argos in Week 8. Winnipeg controlled the game early, especially on the defensive and special team sides of the ball, as they had a big lead at halftime. The Toronto Argonauts did make an attempt at a second half comeback, but fell short in the closing seconds of the game by a score of 40-31. Our third pick for CFL Week 9 was for the Elks to beat the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and sadly that didn't happen either. After seeing the Elks cover the spread against a superior opponent the previous week, I had fell into the Elks' hype behind the quarterback Cody Fajardo. That was a sad mistake as they honestly beat themselves in this game. They had plenty of opportunities to put this game away.
Fajardo takes the snap, four-man pressure. Fajardo looks deep to Julian.
But after a long lightning delay, the Elks fell short of this game to the Ticats by a score of 28-24. The last game of CFL Week 9 was a complete blowout, and honestly, we kind of predicted it to happen. The Saskatchewan Roughriders controlled the game all night long on both offense and defense. The Riders' offense looked sharp as always and put up a bunch of points. The Montreal offense looked the complete opposite and barely scored any points. This turned out to be a winning bet for us as the Saskatchewan Roughriders won the game and covered the spread for us as well. Depending on your bet size, it could have still been a profitable week despite that. After an action-packed CFL weekend, we have 4 exciting matchups to break down and make a moneyline pick for this upcoming CFL Week 10, so let's get it. First, we'll have the BC Lions at the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Thursday night, August 7th. Hamilton has had a very strong start to the season and are currently riding a 6-game winning streak. They have a bend but don't break defense, and their secondary is always seeming to make plays on the ball. Let's not forget the offensive side of the ball. The Ticats have an elite receiving group with the likes of Kenny Lawler and Keandre Smith, and starting quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell has been playing at a consistent, elite level. He's thrown for over 300 yards more than a few times this season. Meanwhile, the BC Lions are at an unsatisfying 3-5 record and are currently on a 2-game losing streak. Ironically, they lost their last game in the closing seconds to the Hamilton Tiger Cats a few weeks ago. Quarterback Nathan Rourke has the potential to be an elite player, but doesn't have the wins to show for it. The BC Lions also have an elite receiving core that will be in an absolute dogfight against the Hamilton secondary. The Lions defense is somewhat decent, but will have to get it together if they want to beat the Hamilton Tiger Cats this upcoming week. This matchup, I'll be backing the BC Lions. The Hamilton Tiger Cats and Bo Levi Mitchell have been playing great football, but I think with the BC Lions coming off of a bye week, this could be a huge letdown spot for the Ticats. I'll look for the BC Lions to end the Ticats winning streak and get the job done at home. The second game of CFL Week 10 will be between the Edmonton Elks against the Montreal Alouettes Friday night, August 8th. After a loss in CFL Week 9, the Montreal Alouettes come into this game at 5-3. With the loss of starting quarterback Davis Alexander and a few other injuries in question, the Alouettes seem to be falling apart slowly. The offense was completely shut down in the last game, and now the backup quarterback McLeod Bethel-Thompson, who replaced Davis Alexander, seems to be a bit banged up as he had to leave the game early last week against the Rough Riders. With a few more injuries on the defensive side of the ball, Montreal will be in a bit of a survival mode for a few more weeks. In other words, they're very vulnerable at the moment. However, this has been a rough and embarrassing season for the Edmonton Elks. They have either not been able to get anything going on the offensive side of the ball or just completely shooting themselves in the foot and falling apart late in games. The end result of all this is a lousy 1-6 record. A change at quarterback a few weeks ago may have been a smart move, but I think there are other pieces of the puzzle that Edmonton has to be able to find if they want to experience the taste of victory at all again this season. For this game, there is a storyline that I am leaning on. The Elks quarterback Cody Fajardo will be playing against his former team for the first time since he left the Montreal Alouettes, so I'm sure he'll be emotionally fired up for this game. With the Alouettes have lingering injury issues at the quarterback position, I'll look for Fajardo and the Elks to pick apart the Alouettes' injured secondary and get the win at home. One thing to note, Cody Fajardo has passed for over 300 yards in both of his starts in back-to-back weeks against the Rough Riders and Hamilton Tiger Cats. The third game of CFL Week 10, we'll be watching the Ottawa Red Blacks against the Toronto Argonauts Saturday, August 9th. The Toronto Argonauts come into this game at 2-6. They're another team that constantly shoots themselves in the foot with unnecessary penalties and blown second half leads. This has to be especially frustrating since they actually have talent on their roster that could be successful. Quarterback Nick Arbuckle and wide receiver DeMonte Coxie are absolute superstars, and they have an above average linebacker group and defensive back group, but that simply hasn't equated to wins at all this season for the Argos. The Red Blacks aren't any better as they come into this game at 2-6. Their problem is that they have a really hard time stopping the opposing offense, which tends to put their own offense into hurry-up, desperate situations. Like the Argos, the Red Blacks have star power themselves in quarterback Drew Brown and wide receiver Khalil Pimpleton, but I think where their greatest weakness lies is in their defense. They give up a lot of yards and a lot of points. Their defensive line, led by Lorenzo Malden, is somewhat solid, but the linebackers and defensive backs are just a little too suspect for me, to be honest. With that being said, I'll look for the Red Blacks to keep up their momentum from last week and get their second victory in a row against the Argonauts. I think this will be a high-scoring game, but if the Red Blacks can hang around late in the game, I'll look for Drew Brown to find one of his weapons on offense and get it done. The Argos defense will have to closely guard Geno Lewis, Justin Hardy, and Khalil Pimpleton all game. All three are capable of creating explosive plays all over and down the field. For the fourth game of CFL Week 10, we'll have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers against the Calgary Stampeders Saturday, August 9th. This is actually part of a doubleheader for Saturday. The Calgary Stampeders have surprisingly had a great start to the 2025 season. Led by quarterback Vernon Adams Jr. and wide receiver Damian Alford, they are always seeming to make absolute highlight reel type plays week in and week out. Not to mention that they are stacked on the defensive side of the ball and have the stats to show for it. They did have a slip up in week 9 against the Ottawa Red Blacks. They lost by 20 points, and quarterback Vernon Adams had to sit out this game due to an injury that he suffered a few weeks ago. They'll look to bounce back this upcoming week though. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers come into this game at 4-3 and have been real hit or miss this season. Their last game saw the defense put together a great showing as they beat the Toronto Argonauts, although they did slightly start to fall apart in the second half. Zach Collaros may still be injured for this game, giving Tommy Strevler the go-ahead to start. That hasn't exactly been too exciting to watch either, honestly, but their defense finds a way to keep them in the game, especially their strong defensive line. For the last game of CFL Week 10, I'll go ahead and take the Calgary Stampeders to win this game. They have already beaten the Blue Bombers twice this season, so this would be a tight round 3. Yeah, Winnipeg is coming off of a win, but that was against a bad Toronto Argonaut squad. Calgary is coming off of a loss as well to a bad Ottawa Red Blacks team, but at least this week they'll have their star quarterback Vernon Adams back in action. I think he'll come out emotionally fired up to win this game after having to sit out the entire game last week. Give me the Calgary Stampeders for 3 wins in a row against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That's all my CFL picks that I have for you today, so let's get a quick recap of our CFL Week 10 picks. First, we're betting for the BC Lions to take care of the Hamilton Tiger Cats on the road. Second, we'll take Cody Fajardo and the Edmonton Elks to beat the Montreal Alouettes on the road. Next, hopefully we'll get to see the Ottawa Red Blacks get to business and win against the Toronto Argonauts on the road. And last, we bet for Vernon Adams to come back strong this week and beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at home. Hopefully we'll have another exciting week of CFL football and winning bets. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoy this type of content and comment below your CFL Week 10 picks. I'd love to hear them. Thanks again for tuning in this week to DopeBets. Subscribe for more upcoming sports betting content.
I got you, homie.